Good morning. It is a good and holy day to talk about the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. And I want you to think for a moment. Have you ever had a week or a day or a month or maybe even a year where you just wanted the world to stop? No one? Just me? No one else gets frustrated with whatever life throws at us, or that we feel hit so hard that you're mentally, emotionally exhausted, and all you want to do is go in your house, lock your door, put on a nice warm heavy blanket, and drink a nice cup of tea and ignore everything else. Anyone? Oh, I see a lot of head nods. And now I'm an extrovert by however God made me this way. God did. I love people. I love being around people. I want to go and see people. I get energized by people. But man, when I want to be alone, there's always people. Children, husband, friends, family. I'm actually never alone. And I really think that there's something to say about that when it comes to ministry. And we learn a little bit about we need snippets of alone time to sustain us in ministry, but alone is not how we're created. We're not created to be forever isolated from one another. That feeling when you want to lock your door, get under that blanket, drink your tea, and talk to nobody, that doesn't last forever. And God made us that way. But we see here in our gospel text that Jesus starts in that locked room. He wants a warm blanket and a warm cup of tea, and he wants to talk to nobody. What we didn't hear in the 12 verses prior is that his friend, John the Baptist, we know John the Baptist. Who was he? Let's do a little recap here. He was a prophet. We'll go with that. We'll start there. What else? What did he do? He baptized people. That's his name, right? John the Baptizer. He was also, if you remember, into the Advent story, when Mary and Elizabeth come together and they are both pregnant. Who's in Elizabeth? John. John is Jesus' cousin. He is the one who paved the way for Jesus. He prepared everyone that someone greater is to come. John did a whole lot of work to make Jesus' ministry possible. So when we hear in our text, Jesus needed to go away, get on his boat, and be alone, it's because he just got word that John the Baptizer was executed by King Herod. This person who Jesus loved, who Jesus has known since the womb, who has been a pivotal piece to his ministry, he just got word that he died. I can remember the exact spaces I got the word when my grandmother died, when my grandfather died, when my opa has died, when I have people in my life. I know exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing, and I know how that news impacted me. Whether I was in the grocery store, it was 3 a.m. in the morning, or I got the call when I was at school in class. I stepped away, I bawled my eyes out, and I went back into work. I went back into the grocery store and to school. Jesus is grieving, deeply, deeply grieving. And so when he went on a boat privately to a solitary space, that was him taking a moment, just a moment, not a light vacation. He was retreating to mourn, to exit from the chaos of ministry, because he deserves quiet as much as we do when we hear the news, the loss of a loved one. I like these moments of Jesus' humanity because we often only put Jesus on the divine pedestal and forget that he also sits on the fully human pedestal. He doesn't just keep plowing through ministry. He takes the real life interruption, he steps aside, takes a moment for himself, gathers himself back up, and steps back into the chaos. The stigma to be strong all the time, to have no tears, to have no emotions, is just not the reality of what it means to be human. And our Lord gives us that blueprint to do so. So now you wonder why I'm spending so much time on his grief. Because Jesus doesn't leave. He doesn't abandon. He doesn't walk away from ministry. He takes that moment, he gets back on the boat, and there is no solitude to be found when he gets back to shore. What happens when he gets back to shore? Who's there? 5,000 people. Not just a small church, not 80 people waiting to hear a word. 5,000 men, women, children who had followed him along foot to meet him when he arrived at shore because they had heard about the amazing things that this guy has done. And he doesn't get there and say, I am not up for this today. No, thank you. Come back another day. He doesn't set a boundary. He doesn't close the door. He doesn't tell him to come back tomorrow. He, even amidst the grief, he still steps up to the opportunity to be with the community. He said he has compassion on them and healed their sick. Even among the sorrow, healing is still possible on an outward motion. So, we're going to get to feeding the 5,000. That Jesus does this amazing miracle that we all know and love. We've all heard this story lots and lots of times. But the crowd had been there for hours. Have you ever been in the heat for hours without food or drink? No, Peter's saying no because you were smart. You came prepared. These people were in the heat of the wilderness for hours. Hunger begins gnawing at their bellies. They're hungry, they're tired. And Jesus is just waiting it out. His disciples come up and think, okay, Jesus, we're in a remote place. It's getting late. They're getting hungry. They're going to get rowdy. We have to send them to the villages. They have to go get some food. We need to respond to this. But they're responding out of self-preservation and practicality. The crowd needs food, but we don't have the resources, Jesus. What are we going to do? And Jesus says those really miraculous words. Don't send them away. Give them something to eat. Do something about it. 5,000 people in a desolate wilderness at sunset. Jesus refuses to dismiss the need, and he pushes his disciples and challenges them to think of someone else in this moment, to take the responsibility to help. Now, this is where I feel like we struggle with this story if we really sit with it. We think, oh great, 5 loaves, 2 fish, wow, 12 baskets left over. Sounds like a good story. People were not hungry when they left. Amazing. That makes no sense. This story makes no sense to anyone with a rational brain. We've just heard it so much that we're okay just accepting it as is. So the disciples say, human logic doesn't make sense here. This is impossible. 5 loaves, 2 fish. This doesn't work with 5,000 people. The math ain't mathing. There's no way we can move forward. So when we put Jesus on that human pedestal, we can't only leave him there. He also lives on that divine pedestal, and he says, your logic, your rationale, your math isn't divine math, and I'm going to show you what that means. So here, human math is saying we're in a deficit. We are in insufficient funds and resources. We are in a disaster. Possible. If you remember a few weeks back, Gloria Wilson shared a wonderful testimony that through God, nothing is impossible. And Jesus says, here's my divine math. It defies logic. It defies rationale. It is completely asymmetrical. When you, human, see 1 + 1 is 2, God doesn't operate on a 1 + 1 scale. God doesn't do a trade of equal exchanges. God operates in an overwhelming, unexpected excess and abundance. So while every human there saw disaster, Jesus says, there's plenty. You're underestimating God here. There is enough. So when they all sat down and they all ate and they were all satisfied and there were leftovers, the miracle of abundance is what should drop our jaws to the floor. We don't need to get stuck on the math. God deals with that asymmetrical math. What we see here today is that Jesus doesn't just meet the physical needs. He answers our scarcity with abundance. When we feel like we don't have enough, God says, I got you. When we feel like we aren't enough, or that we're wandering in the wilderness, or that there's too much remoteness, or that there's too small of what we have, God says, no. Give me what you think is too small and I'll make it overflow. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we get trapped in the human math of it all. We look at our calendars, we look at our energy, we look at our emotional tanks, our capacity, and we realize that life demands 100% of all of us, and we're only operating at maybe, on a good day, a 30%. The needs around us are overwhelming. There's 5,000 people waiting to be fed just in Thousand Oaks alone. What do we do to address it? When we look inside our church, we are hungry. We need the abundance here too. When we look at our resource, I know it's easy to feel like we are inadequate to meet the need. We often go to God. I've said this prayer before. Lord, I only have 5 loaves. I have 2 fish. I have a fraction of the energy I need. I have a tiny bit of faith left. My hope is somewhere else right now, floating astray. My spirit is fractured. Please send the problem away. Go give it to someone else. Please send the crowd away. I don't have capacity today. Please, I cannot handle this. I have said that in my office once or twice before. I take a moment, I lift a prayer to God. That 5 loaves and that little energy turns into ministry every single time, without question. So God is here saying, bring your meager 5 loaves of energy, bring your 2 small fish of hope, bring your spirit of honest, sad, grieving prayers. Surrender all what you think is too small, and I will give it abundance. This is what is possible in ministry when we don't let those small needing of pause moments take the entirety of the journey. If you came here feeling exhausted, or you are grieving, or you are sad, anxious, or if you came here with a full tank and you have nothing at the moment to worry about, whatever it is that life has handed you, this story is for you. This story is to show us that on God's timeline, all things are possible. That Jesus shows us our human limitations are never the end of the story. God is in control. When our math says there isn't enough, divine math says, bring it to me anyway. Today, when we approach the communion table, this morning actually, I poured juice into the 2 cups up there, and I went, that's not going to be enough juice. Me and Patricia had this conversation, and she's like, it's always enough. And I went, my sermon, before I even preached it, there's always enough. You are enough. We are enough. What we are doing here as United Methodist Church of Thousand Oaks is enough. Could we do more? Absolutely. Is there more to do? Absolutely. But we are doing good. Even with what we think might be small, God is making enormously beautiful abundance out of it. Approach the table today. Bring your ordinary life, your quiet grief, your small offerings of Christ, and allow this grace to transform you, to sustain you, and to remind us all that we are enough through God's grace. Thanks be to God. Amen.